Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I first like to thank the organizers for having me here the past day and a half. It's been really great to listen to all the presentations and learn a lot. But allow me to introduce myself. My name is Caroline Donovan, and I attend the College of William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia. I am a senior anthropology major with a focus in Oceania Archaeology. For this project, my advisor and research partner is Professor Jennifer KAHN, who is here today. And together we formulated this project starting in the fall of 2020. I approached Professor KAHN about wanting to start a research project, and together we put together this project. And it has progressed from an independent database project to now an honors thesis and my future master's thesis. I first want to address the inspiration behind the project. The project was initially inspired by gender-based observations in anthropology and archaeology. Anthropology and archaeology are historically, culturally identified as professions suited for men, and women have experienced long-term systemic oppression in such disciplines. Men dominate both anthropology and archaeology, yet men are more strongly associated typically with the practice of archaeology because of entertaining pop culture examples across a wide range of platforms, including the 1980s Indiana Jones franchise. However, during my undergraduate and now graduate level classes at William and Mary, the majority of my cohorts are women, and women dominate both anthropology and archaeology classes. Also, over my 4 years at William and Mary, I have had the privilege of being taught by 2 female archaeology or anthropology professors, as compared to 5 male archaeology or anthropology professors. So based off of my observations, I wondered if the discipline was still as male dominant as it once was. The answer, unfortunately, is yes. First, I want to point out that my observations regarding gender in archaeology and in academia come from a United States perspective on archaeology and anthropology. But I did notice that men not only dominate archaeology in the media, but continue to dominate in upper-level positions in academia. While women are granted more than half of all anthropology and archaeology PhD degrees today, they are not similarly represented in professional positions. For example, in Dana Bardolph's assessment of the full number of tenured archaeology or anthropology professors at 8 California West Coast R1s and 14 Southeastern R1s, she identified only 4 female full-tenured professors as compared to 19 male full-tenured professors. And this data is from 2018, so it's fairly recent. With a lack of female professors, female undergraduate students lack female role models and are exposed to a limited number of female-led research projects, resulting in a social context where archaeology might seem to be an uninviting discipline for women. These disparities in male and female archaeology professor representation might also influence female undergraduates to pursue positions outside of academia. Some of those positions are represented in the pictures below. CRM, museum, and professional archaeological lab positions typically do not require publications for advancement like academic positions. Therefore, if more females are pursuing archaeological careers outside of academia, they might be less likely to consistently publish their work in regional, international journals and edited volumes. That brings me to my research design. My goal was to develop a database based on gender and publishing. I wanted to figure out who publishes where and how often they publish. I began by looking at similar previous studies from both the United States and Australia. And these studies proved that women do, in fact, publish less than men in archaeology. And hypotheses regarding the reasons for these discrepancies in publishing include, but are not limited to, implicit bias. However, a study of this type has not been done before for the Oceania and Polynesia region. While reading previous studies like that of Dana Bardolph that I mentioned before, I took note of the strategies and their databases, especially concerning publishing patterns and occupational trends. So here I've outlined my research structure. I collected data over 16 years from 2005 to 2020. For every journal article and or edited volume chapter, I coded the gender of the lead author as well as the professional affiliation of the lead author. Now, I do want to acknowledge that by coding the gender of the lead author and only acknowledging male, female, or unknown as my gender categories, that I do risk incorrectly representing an author's gender. I tried to limit these representations, however, by relying on pronoun usages and images from professional biographies. And on the next slide, I've broken down my 10 professional affiliation categories with descriptions that I've written out myself. In the red boxes, I've highlighted some of the important characteristics of those professions. But for my analysis, I focused my attention on academic and non-academic professional affiliations more broadly. I also want to note that I collected data from 9 regional journals, 8 international journals, and several edited volumes, which brought my total number of articles or chapters in edited volumes or books to over 1,500. And that will bring me to my regional journals. So for my regional database, I logged data from 9 regional journals, as I'd mentioned, which totaled 826 peer-reviewed articles. And the journals that I collected data from are represented on the right by cover. I expected to see more parity in regional journals than in international journals because of their often less competitive publication requirements and greater number of publications per volume. And also the fact that a lot of regional journals are typically associated with a membership society from which they pool a lot of submissions. And so I expected to see more parity as well as a wider author demographic. So I was surprised by the results. From those 826 peer-reviewed articles, 70% were first authored by men and only 30% were first authored by females. And so we'll see a breakdown of this data per journal by percentage on this slide. I have highlighted JPS, which is the Journal of the Polynesian Society, due to the fact that between 2005 and 2020, the journal had the most parity at 38%. And this parity could be linked to the fact that the editors of JPS during that time were female. Those editors are Judith Huntsman and Melinda Allen, who is here with us today. Briefly, I want to dive into a regional case study. I chose JSO for my case study because of the nature of this conference. As a regional journal, like I said before, I expected that a journal like JSO would have a more diverse author demographic and therefore potentially more female first authored articles. In terms of the journal editors, male editors have outnumbered female editors for JSO 21 to 10 since the journal's inception, according to the journal's online resources. Therefore, the lack of female editors might relate to the gender disparity in publishing patterns that we see detailed below. Between 2005 and 2020, 68% of the articles were first authored by men, and only 32% were first authored by females. So we're seeing similar trends here in an individual journal as to the wider trends in all regional journals. There were also years in which there were no articles published for JSO, so that could overall affect my results. Here we have a breakdown per year for JSO of the number of female versus male first author publications. I want to point out that the journal did achieve parity in both 2007 and 2011. However, in 2007, there were only 2 authors total, and in 2011, only 4 authors total. So that's a small sample size to assume a larger overall trend. In 2005, however, female authors did outnumber male authors 4-1 for the journal. Like I said, though, the smaller sample size for JSO at only 41 articles total might not be representative of overall trends. Here we see a breakdown of the occupational affiliation for JSO. And while there are more male academics and non-academics contributing to JSO, the ratios of non-academics to academics are fairly similar across gender. So for JSO specifically, we don't see a real drastic split in terms of professional affiliation. That brings me to my international database. I collected data from 8 international journals, which are listed again on the right by cover, and that totaled to be 197 peer-reviewed articles. And the journals are represented again on the right. Now, I did expect to see less parity in the international journals because of their often more competitive publication requirements and fewer number of publications per volume. And the results mirror those of my regional database, with 68% of the 197 articles being first authored by men and only 32% of those articles being first authored by females. Again, we see a breakdown percentage-wise of that information per journal. I've highlighted JAR, which is the Journal of Archaeological Research, because of the fact that there is an equal percentage of male and female first author representation from 2005 to 2020. But again, we do have a smaller sample size for JAR with only 6 total publications in that time period. Now I want to transition to my conclusion about why this is important and relevant to the people here in this room and in Pacific Island archaeology in general. Some of the common trends that I recognized in my research include that there's a higher percentage of male publications per journal across both regional journals and international journals. However, in those journals with higher percentages of female publications, there are often more diverse editor demographics. I also want to address the correlation between journal publications and job advancement. Academic publishing is often a marker of research impact in the discipline. If female archaeologists are not publishing in academic journals, then employers, especially academic institutions, might be less likely to hire those women because of their limited publication output compared to male archaeologists. If women lose out on those upper-level positions, they might also lose out on higher salaries and better opportunities. There is, unfortunately, a leaky pipeline throughout all of archaeology, and we need more upper-level female positions in a variety of sectors. It's also important to note that these trends aren't specific or aren't confined to archaeology and anthropology in general. It's important to note that there are diminishing numbers of women in all STEM fields at nearly every stage of their academic careers. This could possibly be connected in archaeology specifically to instances of sexual harassment and sexual assault, especially during field schools, which typically take place early on in a female archaeologist's career. For example, in a 2014 study by Clancy et al., women were found 3.5 times more likely to experience sexual assault during field school than males. At this time, I could discuss opportunities for advancement in academic archaeology, which I'll briefly cover, such as more undergraduate publishable research, more female-to-female mentorships, and more specialized volumes for regional and international journals. But I think it's also important to note the potential positives that these trends reveal for Oceania archaeology. My research supports that women are opting out of academia to pursue other careers in archaeology. And Oceania archaeology has a wide range of careers to offer, and women pursuing careers in CRM, cultural resource management, and museum work may have stronger opportunities for advancement, visibility, salary increases, and better work-life balance. In the next phase of my research, I plan to look at gendered presence in archaeology societies as another way to track female impact in the discipline. I also plan to interview female archaeologists in Oceania to ask the reasons why they might have opted out of their academic jobs. Thank you, and I look forward to any questions or comments.